You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's May the 12th. Forgot to check the date. And welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev Cindy.
Good morning.
How are you? And how was the trip?
It was a trip of a lifetime. Something I've been wanting to do for 38 years, and it was just absolutely spectacular and better than I ever could have imagined.
Good. Did you get to every place that you wanted to go to, or you gotta go back?
All but one. I had a list of things that I really wanted to do and see, and I wasn't able to get to the Anne Frank house. Like, you have to plan that visit weeks ahead of time. You're normally purchasing your tickets 6 weeks out, so they're booked way ahead.
Wow. Well, yeah. For anybody who's just wondering, well, where did Cindy go? You went to
Amsterdam.
All right. And cannabis?
Oh, cannabis was all over the place. There used to be over 1,000 coffee houses in Amsterdam. That has, shrunk over the years, and there's about 220 to 250, coffee houses left. I hit probably in the time that I was there 40 to 50 of them. They were literally all over the place. I couldn't imagine what it would have been like with over 1,000 of them in the city versus the over 200 that I saw. Because literally it was you couldn't walk a street and not see a coffee house.
Yeah. Were they very big?
No, of course, things are very narrow in Amsterdam. All the homes are very narrow. So the coffee houses aren't huge at all. A couple of them that I was in, had maybe 3 seats for people, and that was it. Some of them were much larger, like the Bulldog, which is the oldest coffee house in Amsterdam. It's the original one. It had a few levels, and there was, quite a bit of room for people to sit, versus one called the Gray Area that I went to, that it was the one that had the 3 little tables.
That was it.
And, no outdoor balcony or anything.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of, spread around.
It was amazing. It was, I spent my last day. I woke up in the morning and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk, and I'm going to go to every coffee house I see and smoke a joint. And I was really high by the time I got back to the Airbnb that night. Like I said, you can't go but a few feet, and there's another one.
One last question before we get into the news. To go in and purchase a couple grams, what was it like as far as cost-wise?
Oh my God. Depending on what you wanted, it was anywhere between, I think the least expensive gram I saw was €11, which would have been, 18 or 19 Canadian. And the most expensive gram I saw was €30, which would be about 45 Canadian per gram.
Wow. Holy smokes. $45.
A gram of weed.
Yeah. Wow. Ouch.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it sounds like you had a good time. Weather was good.
Weather was wonderful for the most part. There was one little rain spurt. So it wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It was very much like a Canadian spring. Less rain. So I walked everywhere. I mean, I took an Uber to my Airbnb, and I took an Uber back out to the airport. And besides that, I was on foot. I walked everywhere.
Good. All righty. Time to get on with the news. We got caught up in what Cindy's been doing the last couple of weeks. Here we go. First story of the day.
Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, researchers find oldest definitive evidence of psychedelic plant use in Peruvian Andes.
All right. Latin American and U.S. archaeologists working in Peru have uncovered hidden rooms that they suspect were used for exclusive psychedelic drug parties. They are estimated to be about 2,500 years old, predating the Incan Empire by several centuries. The researchers, based at the University of Florida, Stanford, and unspecified South American schools, claim their discovery is the oldest irrefutable evidence of psychoactive plant usage in the Peruvian Andes.
Just to go back here a second, exclusive psychedelic drug parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was it?
I imagine it was probably more like exclusive psychedelic medicine ceremonies.
More likely was correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Inside the chamber, they found villicabine residue, known to contain psychedelic compound and DMT derivative bufotenine, along with trace amounts of 5-MeO-DMT and pure DMT. Which is what we call an NDMT. It was identified on a collection of snuff tubes made from bone, along with nicotine from tobacco plants, indicating that the ancient Peruvian psychonauts were snorting a powerful psychedelic powder of sorts. These bones came from birds and deer primarily.
The administrating tools of antiquity were discovered in 2017 and 2018 before undergoing chemical analysis to determine their history. They and the chamber network were uncovered at the UNESCO World Heritage Site known as Chavín de Huntar. The scholars say that not just anyone would get invited to participate in the consciousness-altering festivities within the chambers. Only the elite of the Chavín culture would.
Interesting. The tubes are analogs to the rolled up bills that, oh my God, I hate the way that they're doing this, that high rollers snort cocaine through in the movies, right? University of Florida archaeologist Daniel Contreras explained in a statement sent to Live Science. He is one of the authors of a new study published about the discovery of the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences Journal. He has spent decades examining the site where the chambers were discovered, alongside a team lead by Stanford professor John Rick.
Psychedelics have long been an integral part of the Peruvian culture. In the nation's section of the Amazon, indigenous groups like the Shipibo have been using the DMT-infused ayahuasca brew for ceremonial and healing purposes for thousands of years. In the Andes Mountains, Quoreo natives use their shamanic healing practices on those under the influence of the mescaline-bearing cactus San Pedro. The plant gets boiled and served in liquid form.
Psychedelic tourism is big business in the country, attracting thousands of travelers every year. Graham Hancock, Jake Paul, Lindsay Lohan, Sting, Jim Carrey, Woody Harrelson, and Megan Fox are famous people known to have visited for this purpose. There are countless psychedelic retreat centers throughout Peru. Many are trustworthy, but several are only concerned with making money, so be careful.
Yeah, there you go. Peru, oldest. Now did they say they didn't give a year? Did they? I'm just checking back. Oh yeah, there you go. Over 2,500 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say I closed it. I can't go back.
Yeah. That's it's a long time ago. Actually, when they found the some of the tombs in China where they found cannabis in, they were just as old.
Yeah. Well, these are plants that have been around forever.
Already.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. All right, you ready? On to the next story.
Coming to us from Aurelia Matters, a poll: most opposed to extending drug legalization.
Fungi. About 80% of readers were opposed to extending drug legalization to psilocybin-containing mushrooms or MDMA in an online poll this week. In many Canadian communities, you might get the impression that psilocybin mushrooms actually are legal, as the stores selling them are both tolerated and not all subtle about their line of business. Please concede that they are often a low priority for enforcement.
Men are more likely to favor legalization, apparently. And, a poll asked, should recreational drug legalization be extended to substances like magic mushrooms or ecstasy? I find it interesting that they put the two of them together.
Yeah.
And then for men, the yes was at about 25%, and for the women, it was at about 12%.
Wow. I'm just scrolling down through these charts here. Oh, now the website is bouncing.
Oh, no. I'm going to go on to the next poll while you're
right.
bouncing. And the next one is,
Okay.
should recreational drug legalization be extended to substances like magic mushrooms or ecstasy? And this is cross-referenced with how old you are. So under 40, 40% of people said yes, the same with 40 to 49. Getting into my age group, 24% of us said yes. The 60 to 69 said about 16% said yes, and 70 or older, 11% said yes.
Yeah, I see. There's a whole whack of charts on here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Should recreational drug legalization be extended to substances, as you mentioned, the mushrooms and ecstasy? And they say they have the dollar value. People who are making money. People who are making over $180,000 or $140,000 a year. 28% of them say yes, but as you go down to under $40,000 a year, it's only 18%.
Yeah. Yeah, and it stays right about there for like the 100 and below.
Yeah. Cross-reference. Say, what party do you plan to vote for? Have already voted for in the federal election? Oh, okay, that's got.
This one makes complete sense to me, to be honest. Although I expected the Green and the NDP to be higher, but that order kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I can see that. I agree. What best describes your view? Okay, what's that got to do with ecstasy and mushrooms?
Yeah. How do you feel about the election outcome?
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
We compare it to cross-reference with should Canada have legalized recreational cannabis. So for the people that say yes, recreational cannabis, was good. 28% of those people are saying, yeah, we should legalize mushrooms and ecstasy, which is really psilocybin and MDMA. And for the people that said no to cannabis, 4% of them are in agreement with psychedelics becoming legalized.
Yeah. Which statement is closest to your experience of recreational cannabis? I use cannabis recreationally both before and after legalization. That's basically almost 50% right there.
Yep.
I use cannabis recreationally only after legalization. That's 28% of the people. They waited. I thought that my number might have even been higher, but I guess not. I use cannabis recreation before legalization. Only 16%.
Yeah. Well, see, those are the people that want to, they're the daredevils.
Yeah.
That group of people like oh yeah, before it was legalized, I was all over it, but not so much anymore. They don't want to be legalized because they would do the same thing.
Oh, they even got one here for you for tattoos. Which answer is closest to your attitude to tattoos? I have tattoos and I'm happy with them.
Yeah, I can't believe only 40% of those people want to want to legalize it. I don't have tattoos, but I'm open to getting them. Have tattoos, but regret them. Wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me too. That it would go down that way. I have tattoos and I'm happy with them. That's the one I'm really shocked in. Only 37%.
Yeah, you expected higher, eh?
Opposite. Yeah, yeah.
Do you attend religious services? Well, those people would never use. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, not going to go through them all. But there you go. Bunch of polls.
A bunch of polls. Some of them are quite interesting, though.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So, all righty. We should move on to our next story. And there we go.
Coming to us from Science Alert. Does cannabis lower sperm quality? New study reveals a surprise result.
With cannabis now legal in much of the U.S., the focus is shifting from the ethics of using cannabis to the health implications. New research suggests smoking cannabis doesn't lower sperm quality, and challenging the results of some previous studies. We heard all that when I was going to high school. Semen samples from 921 men were analyzed as part of the study, which was led by researchers from the Boston University School of Public Health. The samples were checked for semen volume, total sperm count, sperm concentration, and sperm motility, and that's how they move along.
Overall, the researchers found no significant difference in these measurements when comparing cannabis users with people who don't use cannabis. While there were variations, there didn't meet a statistically significant threshold. Chronic cannabis use among human males has been associated with lower testosterone concentrations and alterations in other hormones relevant to semen quality. And this is coming from the researchers in their published paper.
And it jumped, and I've lost where we were.
Okay. Studies have also shown associations of chronic cannabis use with poor semen quality, but results have been inconsistent across different hormonal and reproductive measures. Did you find us yet?
In this last sample, at least, there was no pattern to be found. It doesn't settle the issue one way or the other, but it is another useful piece of evidence for scientists looking into the potential health issues associated with cannabis. Previous research has raised questions about cannabis use and how it might influence working memory and triggers psychotic experiences. Other research has suggested cannabis use could protect against cognitive decline. It definitely seems to leave lasting changes to our bodies, for better or worse.
When it comes to this particular study, 22.6% of participants said they were regular cannabis users, while 3.3% of them said they use cannabis every day. But this use apparently had no impact on sperm health. Further control for potential confounders, including body mass index, had little influence on the study results, and results were similar among non-smokers of tobacco, writes the researchers.
We know that the primary psychoactive ingredient in cannabis is THC. Interacts with cells in many different parts of the body, including the brain, of course, but also other tissues and organs. Importantly, for this particular field of research, we've also seen THC affecting the testes in animal studies. With that in mind, it's somewhat surprising to see no noticeable impact on sperm health in the sample of men tested here.
More research is going to be needed to establish whether cannabis use really does impact sperm quality across larger groups of men, across longer time frames, and across more countries. With more data and more research, more recognizable patterns should appear. There is a paucity of information regarding the effects of cannabis use on semen quality, write the researchers.
Epidemic studies of cannabis use and semen quality have been limited, and results have been inconsistent. And this was published in the Andrology publication. So, there you go. And I was hearing all about all that when I was going to high school. As I said, for years they've been talking about that. And then you come across something like this that says no. Or there's inconsistencies. It's not, flat out straight through.
Yeah, but I mean, like back in the Reefer Madness days is when that research was done that said that it was bad on semen quality and semen count. If you want to have kids, don't smoke weed, men, blah, blah, blah. That research was done back in the Reefer Madness days when they were putting out that movie and all that stuff. So how much do I trust that research from then?
I know. I'll ask my kids, my 3 kids.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. We go to the next story.
Coming to us from cannabis.net. Forget brain quizzes. Cannabis could be the key to preventing cognitive decline, says new groundbreaking study.
The earlier story mentioned a bit about this, so here we go. Could cannabis be the key to preventing cognitive decline? Here's what a groundbreaking study has to say. It says cognitive decline is the gradual decrease in mental functioning as we get older.
Yeah. It affects many significant cognitive tasks that we use on a daily basis, such as reasoning, processing, attention, and memory. The rate at which these functions decrease in efficiency and severity vary from one person to another, though it's inevitable that everyone will be affected at some point. Cognitive decline occurs due to many biological changes that happen in the body as a result of aging, particularly in the brain where neurons also age. This leads to slower processing times as we struggle to process new information. In addition, hormonal changes caused by aging also impact brain function. Other factors such as free radical accumulation, oxidative stress, and reduced blood flow to the brain, as well as many others, affect brain cells, not to mention lifestyle and medical factors, which can also speed up cognitive decline. Chronic conditions such as high cholesterol or high blood pressure, obesity, vitamin deficiencies, and mental health issues all contribute to cognitive decline.
This is the reason why we lose our independence as we get older. The thought can be scary. But did you know that alongside living a healthy lifestyle from a young age, cannabis consumption can help?
Yes, a groundbreaking large study whose results were published last year analyzed more than 5,000 men in Denmark for over 40 years to examine the long-term effects of cannabis consumption. The study was also supported through data provided by the National Institute of Drug Abuse and led by a public health scientist, Christine Merap-Hogue. Military intelligence tests were utilized to measure cognitive function at 2 different periods, early adulthood and then again in late midlife. It was interesting to find that the men with a history of cannabis consumption displayed less cognitive decline when they were studied at both points in life compared to those men who didn't use cannabis. The investigators took into account different health and lifestyle factors which may affect IQ scores, such as tobacco smoking, binge drinking, and educational level, yet the findings were the same. Cannabis users showed less cognitive decline compared to non-users.
Interesting. Very interesting. The researchers also discovered there was no association between the frequency of cannabis use with the age of their first consumption. These factors also did not lead to more cognitive decline, which dispels the theories that early cannabis use speeds up cognitive decline. Among cannabis users, no significant association was found with cognitive decline for either age of initiation of cannabis use or frequent cannabis use, explains one of the study's authors.
Further studies are needed to investigate whether these findings reflect that there are no adverse effects of cognitive decline or that the effects of cannabis are temporary and disappear after a prolonged period of time, the authors said. Meanwhile, a study conducted by researchers at the University of California at San Diego analyzed the long-term effects of cannabis use on cognitive among 297 older individuals with HIV. The cohort included frequent cannabis users, consumed several times a week, occasional users, once a week or less, and then non-users altogether.
According to the findings, the individuals who historically consumed cannabis occasionally had the best results. They also added that frequent cannabis consumption was not linked to a decrease in cognitive performance during the trial. The authors wrote, in a longitudinal, well-characterized cohort of older adults with HIV, We found that occasional cannabis use in later life was associated with better overall global cognition compared to no cannabis use, a potential important finding given this population's increased vulnerability in cognitive impairment.
Another study from researchers at the University of Colorado at Boulder analyzed the effects of cannabis consumption on cognitive function, working memory, and executive function among 856 individual twins. Cannabis users were analyzed side by side to their non-consuming twins during the late adolescent years. Then it was analyzed again in the early 20s. A majority of the cannabis users in the study admitted to occasional but not daily use of cannabis. These studies' authors found little support for causal effect of cannabis on cognition. The conclusion is consistent with those from previous twin studies, which suggest that cannabis use does not cause a decline in cognitive ability among normative cannabis use using sample, they wrote.
And for decades since the 1930s, the war on drugs tried to brainwash people into thinking that cannabis use caused their brain to rot, and other silly myths with zero scientific evidence. These misinformed claims and many more surrounding the dangerous effects of cannabis on one's brain were unfounded. This is nothing more than a propaganda spread by the war on drugs. That said, it only applies to youth and teen cannabis use. Young children with developing brains shouldn't be exposed to drugs, and that's something we all agreed on. However, using cannabis responsibly in early adulthood and even in one's senior years can even be beneficial and protective for brain health.
In fact, cannabis is neuroprotective for the brain. There are many studies proving the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties of cannabis for the brain. It's the opposite of what fear-mongers and prohibitionists have been campaigning all of these decades. Cannabinoids, particularly THC and CBD, have proven that they can be beneficial and protective for the brain, despite being fed misinformation for many decades about how cannabis leads to cognitive decline, lower IQ, and brain rot. This is simply not true. Even individuals in their senior years are able to enjoy cannabis responsibly and safely without worrying about it affecting their cognitive function.
There you go. Another myth busted.
Woo, woo.
Woohoo, exactly. All righty. That's our first four stories. Time for us to take a break. When we get back, we'll continue with the news. Other than that, we'll see you in, under 3 minutes.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, we got the first half of the story covered. Getting ready for the second half, and there we go.
Coming to us from Science Alert, Brazilian psychedelic plant emerges as potential depression treatment.
Long used in indigenous Brazilian rituals, the Germa bretta plant, which contains this potent psychedelic, is gaining ground in its potential treatment for depression. At street stalls where medicinal herbs are sold, customers can buy the plant's root, which contains DMT, a hallucinogenic substance that researchers say could be used to alleviate symptoms.
Following instructions he found on the internet, Guarci Carvalho extracted DMT at home in 2016 from roots he bought on the street. The 31-year-old software programmer who has tried various treatment for chronic depression he has suffered since adolescence said that the medicine makes it feel like you've solved something in your life.
Physicist Dralu Arajo, who has conducted extensive research on the medicine, says the response is rapid. One day after treatment, patients already showed a significant improvement in the depression symptoms. Yet, he also warned that it is not a magic cure and that psychedelics are not for everyone.
As a researcher at the Brain Institute of the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte, he and his team treated 14 people with the medicine for 6 months. The patients inhaled vaporized DMT under medical supervision.
It's common for our patients to say that something's changed, that a key opened something, he says. His patients also receive psychological therapy, and some continued with conventional pharmaceutical drugs.
Neuroscientist Ferdinand Falanfo Fontes, also of the Brain Institute, said, "We have patients who improve significantly and others who don't improve at all." They say findings were published in the scientific journal Nature in April. In 2024, he published another study with promising results in the journal Psychedelic Medicine.
Yeah, as for Carvalho, who stopped using the plant some time ago, he said the medicine really allows a person to start to have a lighter life. It helped him get through a time when he was in a state of questioning myself about work, day-to-day life, he says.
Brazil occupies a fairly prominent place in DMT research due to the substance's prominence in society, Haro said. While there is no ban on the cultivation or possession of the plant, Juema, which is also known as Mimosa tenflorea, consumption of the DMT, though, is prohibited, except for religious and scientific use, which is the same here, by the way. I mean, I can purchase the root and have it here, but that's all I can do. Jurema's roots are combined with other plants in a wine-like beverage that is consumed at rituals that includes dancing and drums, part of indigenous tradition in northeast Brazil where the plant grows. And that would probably be something similar to ayahuasca.
Yeah. It's not hallucination, says Joyce Socha, a young woman attending a Jurema ceremony in Planaltina on the outskirts of Brazil. My spiritual channels became more accessible. I can communicate better with myself, Socia says.
Gathered in a house courtyard and dressed in white, the group of mostly novices waited for more seasoned practitioners to enter a trance and bring messages from ancient spirits. Meanwhile, back in the lab, Ahura is hoping to expand his DMT research to a study of 100 patients.
Let's say that in 5 years, we'll have a clear picture on when it will reach a real clinical setting, he says.
Interesting.
All right, there you go.
Interesting.
That had a little bit of jumping going around on that page too. So
yeah,
we got through her though. All righty. Next story is up.
Coming to us from SciTech Daily, natural mushroom compound shows promise in treating Parkinson's symptoms.
Nice. Psilocybin, a naturally occurring compound found in certain mushrooms, has shown potential in treating depression and anxiety. Now, researchers at UC San Francisco set out to explore whether psilocybin could also benefit individuals with Parkinson's disease, a population that frequently suffers from severe mood disturbances alongside motor symptoms and often responds poorly to conventional antidepressants and other medications.
Yeah, the results were surprising. Participants not only tolerated the treatment without experiencing serious side effects or worsening of their Parkinson's symptoms, the primary focus of this pilot study, but also reported meaningful improvements in mood, cognitive function, and motor control. Remarkably, these benefits persisted for several weeks after psilocybin had cleared from their bodies.
Yeah, this marks the first time a psychedelic has been studied in patients with any neurodegenerative disease. Now, Ellen Bradley, MD, Assistant Professor and Associate Director at USCF's Transitional Psychedelic Research Program, says that we are still in very early stages of this work, but this first study went well beyond what we expected. Many people don't realize this, but mood symptoms and Parkinson's are linked to a faster physical decline, and they are actually a stronger predictor for patients' quality of life with Parkinson's than their motor symptoms.
Researchers in the TRPR program within the UCSF's Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences and the Department of Neurology teamed up to lead this project, which was funded by an anonymous donor. The findings were published in Neuropsychopharmacology, which is a Nature publication. Parkinson's disease, which is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder characterized by uncontrolled movement due to abnormal brain activity, affects about 1 million Americans. While medications like levodopa can relieve symptoms, there are no approved therapies to slow the progression or reverse the disease itself.
Common early physical symptoms include tremors and foot dragging, but Bradley said anxiety and depression in patients with no history of psychiatric problems often precede the onset of motor symptoms by several years. It's unclear why standard medications often don't work well for these patients, but mood changes could be part of the neurodegenerative disease process. To test the safety of psilocybin for these patients, the researchers gave 7 men and 5 women with mild to moderate Parkinson's disease a 10 milligram dose, followed 2 weeks later by a higher dose of 25 milligrams. The patients completed psychotherapy sessions before and after the psilocybin, 8 sessions in total, and were evaluated for changes in mood, cognition, and motor functions.
While nearly all participants experienced some adverse events while on psilocybin, such as anxiety and nausea, elevated blood pressure. These were not serious enough to require medical intervention. The participants had meaningful improvements in their mood, cognition, and motor symptoms at both their 1 week and 1 month follow-up appointments. The team evaluated the participants' mood again 3 months after their psilocybin sessions and found it was still significantly improved.
The researchers suggested a variety of explanations for the improvements. The beneficial impact of psilocybin on the patient's mood could have led to better cognitive and motor functions. For example, people feel better, and that in turn helps them socialize and become more active, both key elements of Parkinson's treatment. Another theory is that the psilocybin could provide relief from multiple symptoms of the disease by reducing inflammation and promoting neuroplasticity, the growth and reconnection of brain cells involved in mood, cognition, and movement regulation.
I feel that it's probably a combination of these two things.
Mm-hmm.
The results of this pilot study were promising enough that the researchers are conducting a larger randomized control trial at UCSF, enrolling a larger and more diverse group of patients. The second study incorporates non-invasive brain stimulation, neuroimaging, and other tools to understand how psilocybin impacts inflammation and neuroplasticity. It will include a second site at Yale University with the aim of enrolling 100 participants. This work will be funded by the same anonymous donor that paid for the safety pilot, as well as by the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. I knew he was going to be involved.
Somewhere in there, yeah. Now, according to Joshua Woolley, MD, PhD, Associate Professor at UCSF, says that the vast majority of brain diseases still lack interventions that change the course of the illness. We can often treat the symptoms, but we don't alter the trajectory or prevent decline. Now that's beginning to change. These results raise the exciting possibility that psilocybin may help the brain repair itself. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. We've
The
seen
brain
that
repairing
in stroke
itself through the
victims.
use of psilocybin.
Imagine
Imagine that, eh?
Imagine that.
All righty. We just head off to the next story.
Okie dokie.
Here we go. What's up?
Coming to us from MSN, raid number 7, Windsor, Ontario. Police bust downtown magic mushroom dispensary again and again.
There they are, containers, packages. And perhaps the 7th time in less than 2 years, Windsor police have busted a downtown magic mushroom business, keeps sprouting up on Olivet Avenue. In the latest crackdown at the now familiar location, officers with the Windsor Police Service's Drugs and Guns Unit executed a search warrant Wednesday at a commercial storefront in the 300 block of Olivet Avenue.
Investigators said almost 30,000 in illegal mushrooms were seized from the dispensary that sells the illegal psilocybin products. Police said they confiscated 217 bags of dried psilocybin, commonly known as magic mushrooms, 94 containers of psilocybin tablets, 55 psilocybin chocolate bars, 36 packages of psilocybin gummy bears, 6 DMT vapes, 6 containers of dried psilocybin, and $600 in cash.
Yeah, 33-year-old employee was charged with possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking. And they say that since July 2023, officers have repeatedly raided the same storefront location, seizing in excess of $200,000 worth of psilocybin-infused products. In response to the downtown Windsor business that openly sells magic mushrooms, city police vowed in July of 2023 to hold criminally accountable anyone in possession of or trafficking in outlawed substances.
Sales of products containing the hallucinogen psilocybin are illegal here in Canada. Fun Guys, which originally set up franchise operations in downtown Windsor and across Ontario in 2023, announced last November that it was shutting down after hundreds of police raids. This same Ouellette Avenue location was busted again this January. The company originally stated its efforts were aimed at having magic mushrooms legalized here in Canada.
Police said Health Canada warns taking magic mushrooms can cause people to see, hear, or feel things that are not there, or to experience anxiety, fear, nausea, and muscle twitches, accompanied by increased heart rate and blood pressure. And as far as the police, they said that the investigation is ongoing. Yeah. There you go.
Interesting.
Number 7. Lucky 7. Isn't that supposed to be, a good number? Maybe after 7, it'll be the last one. That'll be the luckiness 7.
Yeah, probably because Fun Guys isn't going to open again.
Yeah, I know. I know. That happens. All right, yeah, because they've already announced that, as they mentioned,
that they're done. So
they're
yeah,
done. But there are others. There are
many.
others out there. Yeah, many. All right, ready? Last story of the day.
Yeah. Coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference. Belgian researchers, cannabis not associated with sedentary lifestyle.
Historically, one of the most common stereotypes perpetrated by cannabis opponents, mainstream media, and films is that cannabis consumers are lazy and unmotivated. However, the results of a recent study conducted in Belgium directly contradicts that portrayal. Researchers affiliated with various health and academic institutions based in Belgium conducted a study examining cannabis use and levels of physical activity.
Several studies have suggested a positive effect of occasional cannabis consumption on the frequency of leisure time physical activity, possibly due to more motivation before, more enjoyment during, and better recovery after engaging in leisure time physical exercise. While such an effect would contradict the stereotypical image of lower physical activity levels in cannabis users as compared to non-users. Evidence has been mixed at best. The current study investigated this proposed association in a representative sample of the Belgian population. The researchers stated about the focus of the investigation.
Data from 4 waves of Belgian health interview survey were used in regression and propensity matching analysis to examine the association between past month cannabis use and physical activity levels while controlling for potential confounding variables. The researchers stated after the study's methodology. Now, a total of 19,936 individuals were included in the analysis. They were aged 15 to 64. And they say that we modeled physical activity and function of past month cannabis use while adjusting for potential confounders.
Yeah, in my discussions with skeptics and cannabis opponents over the years, I often point out that a long list of successful professional athletes have admitted to cannabis use. I previously partnered with 18-year NBA veteran and all-star Clifford Uncle Cliffy Robinson and appeared alongside him in the Netflix film Grass is Greener prior to his tragic passing in 2020. He is a glowing example of someone who consumed cannabis throughout his life and was also very physically active. One thing that Clifford always said was cannabis can absolutely be part of an active lifestyle, as evidenced by his lived experience. The recent study in Belgium goes to the heart of Clifford's claim.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. Just because you smoke cannabis doesn't mean they're not going to be active. All right. It says both the regression analysis and the propensity matching analysis revealed no evidence in favor of positive effect of past month cannabis use on physical activity levels. Descriptive analysis of baseline characteristics suggested some clear differences between users and non-users, that were in line with previous studies. The researchers stated about their study's findings. They go on to say and conclude that there was no evidence suggesting that past month cannabis users have better or worse physical activity levels compared to non-users in the Belgian population aged 15 to 64 years of age.
Whether someone is physically active or not is dependent on several factors. However, just because someone consumes cannabis does not automatically equate them to being lazy or physically unmotivated. The results of this Belgian study build on numerous other peer-reviewed studies that have arrived at the same conclusion, in addition to a laundry list of real-world examples of athletes in elite physical shape who have also consumed cannabis during their successful careers.
Bingo, exactly. Just because you smoke cannabis doesn't mean that you're lazy. I know many people who are active that consume cannabis.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Yeah, just more
I know many
stories.
people who are active because they consume cannabis.
Yeah. You know, and some people like to go for a walk when they consume cannabis.
Yep.
Right? Nice walk in the woods or wherever.
Yep.
You know? So, all righty. I see we're done. Got all the story finished up. Anything before we say goodbye and I sign us off?
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Any advice for Amsterdam? Goers?
Oh, any advice for Amsterdam? Do as much as you can and walk everywhere. And hit the Rocket coffee house. It was probably my favorite.
There you go. All right. That's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics, and to you, our viewers. Thanks to you for tuning in. And don't forget to educate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.